One way to think about motivation is in terms of your persistence. If you're motivated with something, you're going to stick with it. Another way to think about motivation is in terms of your goals. If you have a certain goal that is very important to you, you're more likely to stick with something than if you have a goal that's less important to you. Another very important aspect that a lot of times people don't think about is how important you think the subject is that you are studying. If it's a subject that's very important to you, then you're more likely to stick with it. And there's different kinds of importance. For some people, it's just important because it's interesting. For some people, it's important because it is simply going to get you the degree that you want to get. It's useful. For some people, it's just fun. You just like it, and that's okay too. And then sometimes people are motivated simply to get a reward or to get a prize, and that can be good and that can be bad, but it affects what we do. So there's lots of different ways to think about it. And still another thing that motivates people that we don't think about is how we respond when we are not successful at something. So if you are in a course and you get a bad grade on a test, that's a pivotal moment. How do you deal with that? How do you interpret that? Do you interpret it that you are not intelligent and you're dumb and you're not good enough? Or do you interpret it as, I didn't work hard enough, or there's something I didn't understand that I need to work on? And so the way people interpret those experiences has a huge impact on how we persist in the future. There are many different ways to think about goals, but the two that I think are most useful are thinking about short-term goals, or what we call proximal goals, and long-term goals, or what we call distal goals. And it's important for people to have all of those. But what's particularly important and that people often lose sight of is the importance of short-term goals. So an example that I like to give is not in academia, but in dieting. Why do so many people go on diets and never end up sticking to their diet? Well, one of the reasons is because they set a long-term goal and not short-term goals. So a long-term goal might be, somebody says, I want to lose 25 pounds, right? And that's a good goal. And so slowly, week after week, they lose a little bit at a time, and they say, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get there. And they get frustrated, and they kind of give up. And that's why a lot of people give up on diets. Another way to do the same thing is to set short-term goals and say, my goal is going to be to lose 1 pound per week. That's my goal. That's my short-term goal. You may have a longer-term goal of losing 25 pounds, but 1 pound a week. Well, 1 week, most people can do that. You can lose a pound, and you know what? At the end of the week, you say, I did it, I feel good, and next week you're motivated, and you do it again. I'm going to lose 1 more pound, that's all. And hey, I did it, I lost 2 pounds. Well, 25 weeks, you've lost your 25 pounds. But if you only had the long-term goal, you probably would have given up by week 3 or 4. So it's the same thing in academia. Our goal sometimes is to get a degree, or to go into a certain career, or to complete a course. And those are fine, and those are good, and those are necessary. But to really, really be successful in a course, you've got to set short-term goals for yourself. What's my goal? What's my goal for what am I going to complete by Wednesday? And you set a reasonable goal, and you achieve the goal, and you say, I did it. And then, okay, what's my goal by Friday? And that way you will stick with it. And those short-term goals are extremely powerful in learning, in education, but in all kinds of things, in diet, in health, in exercise. It works the same way. Short-term goals are very powerful. Another very important one with academia is allocating specific time to do work for courses. Not treating it as, oh, I'll do it when I get to it, but putting it in your calendar and making it just as important as anything else in your day. If you want to do it, then you say, I'm going to work on my math assignment from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and you schedule it and you do it, and that's just as important as going to the doctor for your doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's in your schedule, you do it. You give the time, you allocate the time, and you follow through with the time. That's very important. And not making excuses for yourself, treating that as important time. That's one of the things that helps a great deal. One of them I go back to, similar to what I said before, is allocating specific time. I think when people are learning in online environments, that's both a blessing and a curse because it's very, very flexible, but it also sometimes becomes too flexible where we say, oh, well, I'll get 5 minutes and I'll jump online. That's not the way to do it. You have to treat this as, like I said, you put it in your calendar and you set specific time to do it, and that's when you do it. Don't treat it as, oh, I can go for 5 minutes. We know an awful lot about human learning and how humans learn, and humans do not learn well in 5-minute spurts. It's going to end up net taking you more time if you do it in little spurts here and there than if you just say, I'm going to set an hour aside on Tuesday to work on this and an hour aside on Friday to work on this, or 2 hours or whatever it is. That's, I think, the most important thing. Obviously, setting short-term goals. When you get a syllabus for an online course, making yourself up a schedule, sticking to the schedule is very important. And, again, it's easy to just say, I'll do it at 3 in the morning. But you know what? 3 in the morning may not be the best time to do it. If you're very sleepy, you're not going to learn well. So you have to think about, when is my best time? I have one of these really nice big monitors, and I can have 25 windows open at once. When you're doing online learning, you don't want to do that. You want to really set rules for yourself that I'm just doing this. The distractions are right there. Turn off the email, turn off the YouTube, turn off the Safari or Explorer, and just do what you're doing. That's going to be the biggest temptation because it's right in front of you. You just move your finger and you can have instant entertainment. And you've got to really set a rule for yourself that says, when I'm doing this, this is just what I'm doing. Because those distractions, it actually affects the learning process. Humans cannot concentrate. People think they can multitask well, but we really aren't wired to do that very well. And so as much as we like to fool ourselves and think we're good at it, we're not that good at it. And particularly in a classroom setting, you want to try to avoid doing that, and that's something that you can definitely do. Another thing with online learning is thinking about where you're going to do it. Where is a good place for you? Because there is internet available almost everywhere, you can do this anywhere, but is anywhere okay? For example, you might think, oh, I'll go to a coffee shop. But is a coffee shop okay for a particular course? You may need quiet. You may say, I'll do it at home. But you know what? Doing it at home may not always be the best for you if you're going to have a lot of distractions at home. I always try to do things at home, and I have lots of things that distract me at home with family, and the dog comes in the room. And so think about what's the best place for you to do it and put yourself in a setting where you know you're going to be successful.